Hey, Mama. Welcome to Marketing Without Socials for Moms. I'm your host, Andrea Singletary, daughter of the king, wife, mama of two, and visibility strategist for moms who want to make social media optional. When I'm not grabbing the 100th go-go squeeze applesauce for my kids, you can find me curled up on the couch with a homemade chai tea latte and a good book. So tell me, have you reached the point in your business where you are done with social media burnout and ready to make social media optional? Are you consistently posting reels and carousels and showing up in stories, but sporadically signing new clients? Or maybe your season of life has drastically changed, meaning you have less time to show up on socials to grow your business. Trust me, I get it. I have been in each of these scenarios at some point in my business journey. It wasn't until I started leaning into marketing strategies outside of social media that I started having more predictability in my sales and growing my business in a way that supported my current season of life. And I want that for you, Mama. Each week, I'm giving you the inside scoop on how to increase your visibility and sales through podcasting, email marketing, and collaborations. All right, Mama, now grab your coffee, notebook, and pen, and let's dive into today's episode. Hey, Mama. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. The rebrand is finally here. If you aren't on my email list, this is a complete shock and surprise to you. But welcome to Marketing Without Socials for Moms. Oh my gosh, it feels so good to say that. But I really wanted to take you guys behind the scenes of my podcast Rebrand. Like, I thought that this would be a cool episode to do. And so this week, in honor celebration of the rebrand, I am dropping a new episode each day this week, so Monday through Saturday. And so the first episode I thought would be like, okay, let's talk about my rebrand, why I decided to do it, giving you all those juicy details. And then the rest of the week, there'll be one interview, and then the other episodes, I'm answering questions that the mamas in my email community submitted. So I'm super excited. So like I said, today we're going to be going behind the scenes of the rebrand. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about rebranding your podcast, but really breaking down like when it's time to rebrand, how to know it's time to rebrand your podcast and what that can actually look like. So I did it that way because I didn't want to make this episode super, super long. So anyways, let's get into my rebrand, my podcast rebrand. So I decided to rebrand the podcast. I made this decision a few months ago. It's something I had been thinking about probably for the last 6 months or so, especially as I gained more clarity in who I don't want to say ideal client. So in who my MVP is. So my coach, Kay Hellman, she has this concept of your most valuable payer. And this is the person who, yes, they're your ideal client, but even more so, they are the people who are actually going to pay you. They are the people who are ready to invest in your offers. And so I gained so much clarity in who that person is back when I launched the Social Media Detox Club in June of this year. I really gained clarity in what their problem is, why they come to work with me, and, the solution that I have for them, just all of that. I just gained so much clarity in my messaging. Like, this year was just so groundbreaking, like such breakthroughs for my business. And I realized that I had grown a lot in my business and I had grown a lot in who I was serving. And so I found myself shifting away from focusing so much on supporting newer moms in business to supporting those who are a little bit more established in business. Now, I absolutely love my new mamas in business, but I realized that the type of services I wanted to provide in this season of my life is more geared towards those who are more established. And so I know that my ideal client, my MVP, are the mamas who either they started their business before they had kids, and then after having kids, it was a major shift. And they're realizing that they can't do things how they did before. And so they're looking at, okay, how can I still show up in my business and hit my goals while still being that present mama I want to be? How can I make this work for me? And that's where I come in. I also serve the mamas who they've been in business, they've been running their business with their kids, but they've experienced some type of transition in their life. Some of them are transitioning to homeschooling their kids. Some of them, their support is a little bit more limited. So, childcare, their kids aren't going to daycare as long or as many days during the week. Or they've experienced some other type of life transition, such as like with me, having a child diagnosed with special needs or something like that. Like something has happened in their life where, again, they're not able to show up how they used to be. They're not able to be on socials like they used to be. And then those mamas who are just burnt out from social media, who they've been doing the social media grind, and just with the changes with the algorithm and different things like that, they want a more sustainable way to show up and, again, still be that present mama they want to be. They want to be that bomb CEO and present mama doing all the things. And so once I gained clarity into who my people were, I realized I had to get my podcast on board with that. I talk a lot about, my podcast being a pivotal part of my business. And so I needed the name to match that. I needed everything about this podcast to reflect who I am called to serve, to call in those MVPs. So that was why I decided to rebrand the podcast. I made a lot of shifts in my business. Now, this isn't to say that I'm about to change my business name. This is actually one of the questions I got from one of the mamas who's part of my email community and submitted a question for me to answer this week. She wanted to know, like, if I change my business, like, change the business name, all of the legal stuff. My business is still called Mama Turned Mompreneur. And the reason why is that I have built up a community under Mama Turned Mompreneur. And I will say this, it's like a household name, so to speak. It is something that people know and is associated with me. And so I'm not going to do away with that at this time. Like, I don't feel led to do that. But with the podcast, because I've shared before that my podcast is my highest converter in my business, and I'm really leaning into this podcast, like I am going all in, I knew I needed to shift the podcast. So I'm not changing the business name. But like I said, I knew I needed to rebrand the podcast to get it in alignment with the direction my business was going and the offers that I'm going to be focusing on, especially going into 2025. Now, how did I come up with this new name? Y'all should already know, SEO baby. I did my keyword research. Now, I also had to look at, if there were any other podcasts that had a name like this. So there was a podcast, I think it's called Marketing Without Social Media. And so I couldn't use that name. So I did Marketing Without Socials for Moms to make it still very clear what this podcast is about and who it's for. Now, let me say this. You do not have to be a mom to listen to this podcast. I serve many clients who aren't moms, or they're not moms yet. They desire to be a mom in the future. And so they're getting things with their business ready now. So that way, when they start having kids, it's not going to be such a hard transition for them. They will already have had these things in place and truly have built a business that fits their current season of life. But like I said, I chose this name because one, SEO. But the other reason why is, again, that messaging piece and speaking to my MVPs. So really speaking to those mamas who they're looking at, you know what, I got to get off this social media grind, or I'm not able to show up on socials like I used to be. What are my other options? And so their other options are learning how to market without social media. And so that's where I come in, and I'm going to be sharing all the tea on how to leverage podcasting, email marketing, and collaborations to grow your business as a busy mama. But also, I'm going to have other experts on to share other ways where I'm not necessarily an expert in, but other ways to grow your business without relying on social media, looking at other aspects of running a business as a mom. So that is how I came up with the new name. Now, if you listened, you heard the new intro. And if you listen all the way to the end, you'll hear the new outro. I also rewrote my podcast description because this is something I've been doing the podcast audits for the mamas inside of the Social Detox Accelerator. A lot of people will basically leave out this prime piece of real estate with their podcast description. So I'm not talking about the episode description, but that general podcast description about your podcast, just giving people an overview, who this podcast is for, what it's about, and everything. And I see a lot of people just not put much or provide much information where it's prime real estate. Now, yes, not everyone who finds your podcast is going to look at the podcast description, but there are a lot of people who do. I am one, when I come across a new podcast, I look at the description because I want to know what it's about, who it's for, whether or not this is something for me. So I share all that to say is I did redo the description. I realized I didn't have to redo it that much because I had already started making some tweaks. But all of this was very easy for me to do because I have resources created already that give me templates to follow to script the intro, outro, and the podcast description. I created these templates. They were something that I previously used for my VIP podcast launch clients back when I was doing launches. And now the mamas inside of the Social Detox Accelerator, they get access to them too, as they're going through and rewriting these pieces if needed and whatnot. But this is something very important, especially because I did the rebrand. I needed to update those pieces of my podcast, especially for new people coming in, listening and whatnot, but also to let you know as a current listener, okay, what's new? What's the change? What can you expect going forward and whatnot? So that was another piece of, the rebranding process. And then I have a new cover art, and I wanted to do something really fun with the cover art this time. So I involved my email community and I had them vote on the cover art. My graphic designer, shout out Chelsea Rogers. I will definitely link her Instagram in the episode description and in the show notes. But she came up with some amazing cover art options. And I honestly had a hard time choosing. And so I was like, you know what? Let my email community choose. This podcast, as much as I love, doing it, it's not about me. It's about you as a listener and everything. And so I decided to get my email community involved and had them vote. And it was pretty split. I was surprised. There were two that were neck to neck, but then finally, one of them was it was a clear winner and everything. And so that is the cover art I went with. And so part of making it fun too is that I also did a giveaway where they could submit questions like what I'm answering this week. And they will be entered in to win a week of Voxer coaching with me. But I wanted to make this rebrand fun, and I didn't want to do it by myself. I've really just learned the power of community over the past year and just really connecting with your community and taking them along the journey, allowing them to see those behind the scene moments and everything. And so I'm not always able to do that on the podcast, but I am able to do it with my email community. And so if you're not on my email list, get on there because you're missing out. And this month, I'm starting a new series. It's going to be something I do monthly where I take you behind the scenes of how I do something specific in my business. And so this month, I'm taking you behind the scenes of how I plan my podcast and email content. And it's really juicy. I give you a video behind the scene and everything. So you don't want to miss out on that. Okay. But anyways, I really have just been leaning into the power of community and it's just felt so good. So yeah, I involved my email community in choosing the cover art and then even submitting the questions. And I got lots of good questions. So I'm not able to answer them all this week, but I am going to be creating episodes around the questions that I don't get to answer this week because they were so, so good. Okay, so to get into the last couple of questions that one of the mamas submitted. So she wanted to know how many aspects did I have to overhaul for the new brand and was I able to leave anything as is? So like I said, the business, as far as like the business name, the legal side of things, my domain name, all of that is the same. And like I said, I've had the Mama Turned Mompreneur domain name and different things like that for 2 years, a little over 2 years now. And I've built up a lot of domain authority under that name and just, again, getting that name out there. A lot of people are familiar with the Mama Turned Mompreneur name, the brand and everything. So I'm not letting that go. It didn't make sense for me business wise. But I did change the podcast name. I changed the cover art. I essentially changed everything with the podcast, but I also changed things inside of my, for my email list. So it used to be, the Mama Turned Mompreneur email community, and now it's the Marketing Without Socials, email community. And I felt like, again, for just the podcast and the email list, that made the most sense. So I'm looking at this being kind of like a subdomain under the Mama Turned Mompreneur brand. Now, can this change in the future? Totally, it can. But I didn't want to stress myself out trying to execute this on my own, because a lot of things would have to be changed. Like if you think about it, I would have to change everything on my website, buy a new domain name, even because I have had the Mama Turned Mompreneur domain name so long, I would have to redirect it to the new one just in case people are still searching Mama Turned Mompreneur, updating socials and all these different things and all these moving pieces. And y'all, it's November. We're in holiday season. I was like, your girl ain't got time for that. So I wanted to start out with just doing the podcast and my email community, kind of get a feel for that, how I like it, what the response is from my community and everything. And let me just say, the response has been so good. Like, just everyone is just like, yes, this makes sense. I love it and everything. So it's been good. But yeah, so like I said, as of right now, I'm not planning to change necessarily the business side of things. And also a side note too. So like my LLC, it's under the initial name that I created when I launched my business, the Savvy VA Mama. And then I got a DBA doing business as with Mama Turned Mompreneur. So I was talking to my coach about it, and I think eventually I'm just going to change my LLC to my name, and just do like either Andrea Renee, so my first and middle name, or Andrea Singletary, like whichever one I can do and everything. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there. So yeah, As of right now, I'm not changing the business side of things, the legal side of things, licensing, none of that. Even with my CRM, everything is still under Mama Turned Mompreneur. So yeah, I'm excited just to finally be able to share the rebrand with you. And I honestly can't wait to see, what comes of all of this, what 2025 is going to look like. The end of that year is going to look like with this new podcast name, direction, and really that good SEO. Like, yes, I'm super excited. So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on the rebrand. Like, if you haven't shared them with me already, you can send me a DM on Instagram. And yeah, thank you for tuning in, and listen out for the rest of the episodes this week. Hey, Mama. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to hang with me. I would love to keep the conversation going. So head to mamaturnedmompreneur.com/marketing without socials to join my email community. I share even more tips and strategies for building a business that doesn't rely on social media and one that fits your current season of life, as well as more behind the scenes of mom and business life. All right, Mama, that's it for today, but I'll catch up with you again next week.